Ich weiß gar nicht, wie ich hier anfangen soll. Ich bin inmitten eines Kindheitstraums. Wir sind hier in den Toro Studios, mitten, ja nicht mitten in Tokio, aber am Rande von Tokio. Hinter mir sind die Originalkulissen diverser Godzilla-Filme, unter anderem auch von dem Mothra-Spin-Off. Wir sehen hier den King Ghidorah aus Final Wars und so weiter und so fort. Der originale Rodan, der damals eingesetzt worden ist. Mein Herz, ich explodiere gleich, weil ja, wir dürfen in den Toro Studios sein. Wir dürfen uns jetzt gleich den neuen Godzilla-Film anschauen. Wir dürfen hier ein bisschen Geschichte schnuppern und ein bisschen, ja, wie soll man sagen, Kindheitsträume nochmal wahr werden lassen. Und dementsprechend freue ich mich sehr, jetzt gleich euch hier zu unserem kleinen Spezialbeitrag von Godzilla King of the Monsters zu begrüßen. Dankeschön.
Is anyone there? I'm trying to reach.
Achtung, Fortsetzungshumor. Ah, Tokio. Stadt der Superlative. Das New York für Nerds oder Fortgeschrittene. Ausflugsziel Nummer 1 für alle Kaijus dieser Welt. Immer noch bunt, voll und irgendwie schräg. Aber auch so faszinierend, dass wir noch einen zweiten Reisebericht hinterher schieben. Immerhin haben wir noch nicht mal an der Oberfläche gekratzt. Und ein weiteres Date mit dem König der Monster. Doch zuerst Akihabara, auch bekannt als Akiba oder Electric Town. Vom Technik-Schwarzmarkt kurz nach dem Zweiten Weltkrieg entwickelte sich das Viertel zum Nerd-Mekka. Nirgendwo in Japan gibt es mehr Elektrofachgeschäfte und Duty-Free-Shops an einem Ort. Nirgendwo gibt es mehr schrille Popkultur. Mangas, Animes, Videospiele, Fanartikel, Kabel und Schrauben.
Ich fühle mich gerade wie bei Bloodsport, als sie durch diesen Gang gehen, um zu dem Kumite-Turnier zu gehen. So fühlt sich das hier an gerade.
Inmitten von bunten Leuchtreklamen und den legendären Maid-Cafés findet man einfach zu viel von allem.
Was grinst du so?
Das ist geil, guck das mal an. Oder hier. Schön die alten Dreamcast spielen. Crazy Taxi 2. Jenks Nintendo Bond. Super Star Wars. Fist of the North Star. Für Game Boy. Das gab's bei uns nicht. Also mit das wüsste. Das habe ich gespielt wie blöd. Best Game ever. Ich habe es geliebt, aber böse, böse in Deutschland nicht erlaubt.
Na, du hast die japanische Fassung geliebt.
Genau, ich habe die japanische Fassung geliebt.
Anders, aber genauso reizüberflutend, Shinjuku. Standort der New York Bar aus Lost in Translation. Und gleichzeitig Shoppingmeile oder bunt beleuchteter Vorhof zum Rotlichtviertel. Noch so ein Ort, in dem alle Sinne baden möchten. Aber wir müssen konzentriert bleiben. Immerhin haben wir eine Verabredung mit einem der ganz Großen. Und dafür durften wir in die heiligen Hallen des Monsterkinos.
What we are witnessing here is the return of Titans.
How many of these things are there?
17 and counting.
That's messed up.
Und ja, zu schnuppern gab's einiges. Zum Beispiel Kunstnebel, Mehlstaub oder Schweiß, der noch an den Kostümen oder Requisiten klebte. Aber vor allem die Historie. Es war fast unwirklich, dort zu stehen, wo vor so langer Zeit alles seinen Anfang nahm. Erst recht, weil die Toro Studios fast nie Besucher empfangen.
Toro Studios is built and designed for filmmakers, ready to support you from the beginning to end.
Gegründet wurden sie im Jahr 1932. Ihr erster Film entstand 1935. Three Sisters with Maiden Hearts von Mikio Naruse. Inzwischen sind sie über eine Fläche von 78.000 Quadratmetern verteilt. Darauf befinden sich unter anderem 10 Studiohallen, 2 Studios für Ton- und Bildbearbeitung, Wassertanks, ein Riesenarchiv oder diverse Räume für Make-up und Kostüme. Und ein kleiner Tempel. Berühmt ist Toho vor allem für seine Kaiju-Eiga, die Monsterfilme. Und eben für Godzilla. Erstmals in Szene gesetzt von Ishiro Honda im Jahr 1954. 2019 kommt nun der 35. Film mit der Echse. Honda ist eine der Regielegenden des Studios. Eine andere ist Akira Kurosawa, Schöpfer von Klassikern wie Yojimbo oder Die 7 Samurai. Teile von James Bond, Man lebt nur zweimal, wurden ebenfalls in Toho gedreht. Inzwischen betreibt die Firma auch etliche Kinos und Theater oder vertreibt diverse Videospiele und Animes, zum Beispiel die Ghibli-Filme oder Your Name. Mit vielen dieser Infos wurden wir begrüßt. Viele weitere wurden uns durch 2 echte Experten übermittelt, Kohei Omino und Toshifumi Shimizu. Der eine war an Shin Godzilla beteiligt, der andere zweiter Regisseur bei Godzilla, Mothra und King Ghidorah. Sie zeigten uns unter anderem den ältesten, ca. 100 Kilo schweren Godzilla-Anzug, den es noch gibt. Dazu diverse Requisiten wie den Oxygen Destroyer aus dem ersten Film. Oder dass der King Ghidorah aus Final Wars wie eine Marionette bedient wurde. Daneben erklärten sie uns die Perspektivtricks der Modellstädte, deren vordere Häuser immer größer sind als die hinteren. Und wir feierten gegenseitig unsere T-Shirts ab. Dazwischen kam dann auch nochmal Michael Dougherty zu Wort, der uns ein wenig über sein Godzilla-Design erzählte.
You know, last time we were here for Tokyo Comic Con, you talked a lot about the design of the fence. So maybe if you could talk about that and explain a bit about the design.
I mean, yeah, I really loved what Gareth did in the previous film with Godzilla's design, especially because I felt as if he really felt real. He felt like something that nature would have birthed. But there's a long tradition. Godzilla changes in every movie. He's never the same. And I wanted to carry on that tradition but still honor what Gareth had done before. So I just made a few tweaks. And the main one that I did were to alter his spikes. Our film takes place 5 years after 2014. So to me it made sense that in the same way that, you know, deer antlers or elk antlers grow over time, so would Godzilla's. They would alter, they would change. And so what I did was I brought back the spikes from the 1954 film because I loved those designs. I thought they were so sculptural and elegant. They almost felt like fossilized fire, if fire could be fossilized. And so the size, the shape, I literally took a black and white photo from '54 and photoshopped it onto the back of Gareth's design, which is where these spikes came from. I felt that they should be bigger and powerful because Godzilla's spikes are his crown. If you look at Godzilla swimming straight at you, not that you ever get to see that often, the spikes tend to create a really beautiful silhouette above his head and look exactly like a crown, so I really wanted to emphasize that. Other than that, you know, we made the feet a little bit bigger so they felt more like a predatory animal's feet.
The size.
Yeah, like the size, the claws. He would need some heavy-duty claws to tear into his prey. And other than that, rounded the tip of the tail, but really, most of this work is based off what Gareth did in the previous film.
Und dann durfte er uns auch endlich seinen Film zeigen. Über 2 Stunden feinste Monsterklopperei. Ich kann nur sagen, falls ihr Fan seid, sucht euch die größte Leinwand, die ihr finden könnt. Als Sahnehäubchen obendrauf gab es nach dem Film dann noch ein Q&A mit Regisseur Michael Dougherty und Schauspieler Ken Watanabe. Und was soll ich sagen? Es war liebenswert. Aber Achtung, es sind schon ein paar Spoiler enthalten.
We're gonna get the Q&A started right now.
First of all, Mike, congratulations on the movie.
Thanks.
Two-part.
Don't be shy.
My name's Steve with Collider.
I know.
I didn't mean it like that. A question for the two of you, but first I have to ask Mike, do you hate the Red Sox?
No, not at all. Boston's just never been messed up in a big screen movie before, so I thought it was time. Can't do San Francisco and New York again. Boring, you know.
Real question for the two of you. I would imagine making this film was an amazing experience. Could each of you share like a day or two that you'll always remember from making the film?
Ooh, that's a good one. So many days. days have gone by. It's hard to pick. It's been over a 3-year adventure for me, personally. I can tell you about a prank I pulled. Love it. Pranks are healthy because they keep everybody on their toes, and making a movie can be very, very stressful. And so there was one night we were shooting particularly late, and I think everybody had it, especially with me. It was the full cast. It was the scene where Vera is calling into the jet and then explaining why she did what she did. And it's a very long scene and very emotional. And it was a lot of Ken and the other actors, staring at her on this monitor. We're doing take after take.
So tired.
I know, I'm sorry. We thought we had it, and I said, no, I need one more. And so, rolled cameras, and they're going through it, and then just at a key moment in the scene, instead of playing the footage of the devastation that Vera had was trying to explain, we queued up a very key scene from one of Ken's classic movies, which
Nemo's Vacation. And last scene and love scene with Chancy.
So it was the key moment in Memoirs of a Geisha when Ken and Z lock lips, and that had a nice stress relieving.
And everyone there cheering.
That was a good one. But there were just there was a whole slew of pranks. I used to put severed limbs and rubber snakes in the water coolers for the crew. I left a life-size Reagan McNeil from The Exorcist in Millie's trailer, who then proceeded to put it in Vera's trailer. So it was just a good way to keep the stress levels down.
This question's more towards you, Mike. There's a lot of monsters in this movie. What led into the choices to go with the ones that you guys went with? I'm very curious how you chose who you were going to focus on throughout the film.
You mean like Mothra, Rodan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I keep saying it, but they're the crown jewels of the Toho universe. They're the ones that I feel like most Godzilla fans and even non-Godzilla fans are the most familiar with. So as much as I love King Caesar and Gigan and those guys, they're a little bit more obscure. But they're also the first ones who kind of teamed up. There's a key point in Godzilla history when Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla put aside their differences and decided to team up against King Ghidorah. It's an amazing scene, by the way. I strongly suggest you go back and watch that movie. But there's literally a scene where larval Mothra goes to Rodan and Godzilla and says, "Hey, this new asshole just showed up and he's gonna mess everything up if we don't stop him." And the two twin fairies are translating for the monsters so the humans can understand what the monsters are talking about. Like they're actually having dialogue with each other. And Rodan and Godzilla are like, the humans. They bully us. Like, why should we help them? And suddenly, for the first time as a kid, that was where you suddenly saw things from the monster's point of view, where the monsters saw us as the monster. The monsters saw us as the bullies that were trying to prevent them from having happy lives. But anyway, it was just like you sense that they were sort of the first giant monster team up. And I feel like they're truly the most iconic of the Toho universe. So it made sense that they should be the first ones to get readapted to the big screen for Hollywood.
Excuse me, Michael. They are not monsters.
They're characters. Yeah, I used the M word.
The mass extinction we feared has already begun, and we are the cause. We are the infection.
The grief of a mother can awaken the great monsters of the world, right?
Yes.
My question is on the pacing of the film. I thought it was exhilarating. How did you find, like a Board of Fetus, how did you find the sweet spot for the tension building, the action, the horror, the spectacle, and also social commentary?
It's hard. I mean, the movie really is created in the editing room. And there's a lot of material that ended up on the cutting room floor. There's a cut that I like to call Godzilla the miniseries, because it was basically 3 hours. So there were much longer versions of the scenes that you saw. And as much as I would love to just bathe in the Godzilla universe for 3 hours, it dragged. So we had to find that right sweet spot, as you put it. And it took a very, very long time.
Hi, oh, this is on. Hi, I'm Daniela from Australia, from news.com.au. I've got 2 questions, if that's okay. First of all, I found it really interesting that there were women. Like, you know, normally in a movie when there's military, it's an old white guy. So I'm really interested in what was your thinking, having kind of such cool, kick-ass women and women of colour in those sorts of roles?
I mean, honestly, if you go back and look at the history of Godzilla films, women who kick ass have been a strong part of it from the very, very beginning. I mean, even go back to the original, but I mean, the Mothra fairies in the old movies are very key characters. And as a kid, that made an impression. But I love those kinds of characters. I mean, Ripley and Sarah Connor, I mean, they're icons as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad the rest of the world is catching up, but I feel like there's just a long history of kick-ass women in sci-fi, and horror especially. So yeah, I just feel like the rest of the world is just now starting to kind of catch on to the idea that that's an okay thing to have in mainstream movies.
Just one more quick one. What did you want or do you want the audience to take something away from this about our relationship with the natural world right now? Were you trying to instill that sort of takeaway or not?
No, again, that's been a message of the Godzilla films from the very beginning in 1954. And I think that the message is really whatever you want to make of it, but it's there. I don't think it's that confusing. It's don't f up the planet. Otherwise, Mother Nature releases her 800 megaton monsters. For me personally, this film really is about finding a symbiotic relationship between man and Godzilla / nature. Like, to me, Godzilla always has been Mother Nature's protector. He's been, you know, like I said, Mother Nature's 800 megaton gorilla. And he's here to protect the planet against any monster, whether they be 400 feet tall or human beings. So, yeah, it's there. It's always been there. If you make a Godzilla film without that message, it's not a Godzilla film. It's just a giant monster movie.
Roberto Recchioni, Screen Week Italia. I love the movie, but why in the US version of Godzilla it's so important to make human character interact with kaiju? In the Japanese Godzilla is less the interaction.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that again? Sorry. I love the accent. It was just
why in the US in the US Godzilla, the interaction with the human level and the kaiju level is so high?
I don't know. I don't know if that's completely true. I mean, I feel like, I hate to keep saying it, but if you go back and look at the long history of Godzilla films, they interact with him a lot. And maybe personally, I was more affected by those moments. Because I think that's what the message of all the movies are trying to say is, it is about that interaction. It is about that relationship. That there is a possible connection to be made between giant monsters and human beings. That no living organism lives on its own. It's all about that delicate relationship between different species.
Okay, and what's your favorite Godzilla beside yours?
The original, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, David Crow with Den of Geek. And I was curious to kind of continue on the last several questions. The process of deciding how much to modernize or Americanize the mythology a little bit. Like you've mentioned the fairies, and it's alluded to in this, but...
Is it? Who caught that? Raise your hand if you caught the twin fairies. Interesting.
Well, I related to that, so how much do you debate how much to leave in of that? Same with King Ghidorah hinted at being an alien in this.
You know, it's a process. I feel like because you're making a film that has such a deep fan base, you have to have enough of those kinds of hints and nods to keep fans happy, but you can't focus on it too much that distracts for the general audience either. So I love Easter eggs. I like to reward people for paying attention. Some of my personal favorite films are the ones where I notice things that I never noticed before. You know, a lot of the classics, details that the director snuck in there that only reveal themselves sometimes on home video. You know, like to this day, I still notice things in Alien or Blade Runner that I haven't noticed in the decades that I've been watching them on repeat. So I just think it's fun. It's fun.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Cinema Blend. So this cast is ridiculous. Just super amazing, like newcomers to the franchise, not even the main three, but like, you know, Bradley Whitford, O'Shea Jackson Jr., you know, Charles Dance, the list goes on. Like, how did you establish such an impressive ensemble? And for Ken, is it refreshing to work with new faces, such talented people in the new installment?
You go first.
Yeah, and then I really enjoyed, and you know, Jansi is most friendly, my character, and Sally Hawkins, I love her. And then it's Kyle, and any other cast is so powerful and then honorable. Yeah.
And yeah, it just came together. Everybody said yes. Just right down the list, everybody said yes. And what was fun for me was sort of preaching the word of Godzilla to the newcomers. Because there were a lot of people, Millie obviously, who weren't that familiar. I mean, I feel like everyone has heard of Godzilla, or they've caught one on cable, you know, in reruns and things like that. But it was fun to sit down and really kind of explain Godzilla to them. And for someone like Millie, we bonded over the fact that we both love animals and nature. And so I explained to her that, well, Godzilla's not just about giant rubber monsters beating the crap out of each other. There's actually this very wonderful message about the importance of nature and animals and our connection to them. So she really sparked to that. I think that's really why she signed up. And the other folks as well, like Bradley Whitford, like that message really resonated with him. So I think it was fun for them to be part of something so big and fun and entertaining, but also knowing that it had some social awareness underneath it. It's like a delicious dessert that's actually good for you.
Hi, I'm Jean-Baptiste, I'm from Paris, and I have a question for Ken. I would like to know what is your very first memory about Godzilla as a Japanese kid?
I didn't see the original, just before I was born. And then I love that mother. Yeah, and then two twins, songs and dancing, and yeah, it's very beautiful. And then, but I don't like the, you know, Godzilla more than Gamera.
Oh,
you know, just
blasphemy in that Toho.
Secret to the Toho, yeah.
Gamera is not Toho, just so in case there's any confusion. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jerome from Canal+. Michael, I wanted to know, why was it so special for you to work on a Godzilla movie? And second, is Godzilla King of the Monsters paving the way to Godzilla Crossed Universe movie?
What kind of, I'm sorry?
The movie, like the Crossed Universe movie, like with the Godzilla and Kong on its way.
Oh, I see.
You know, started kind of being together across the universe.
I mean, it meant a lot to me because I think I mentioned earlier in the introduction was that I grew up watching these movies. When I was a kid, you know, 4 years old, 5 years old, I was a little half Asian kid growing up in Ohio, and I was made fun of a lot. And to watch these amazing movies about giant monsters, and I already had the love of dinosaurs and animals and nature, that were made by other Asian people, meant the world to me. You know, because other than that, it was cowboys and cops and robbers and just your typical TV shows and movies growing up. And Godzilla sort of provided this weird security blanket because he was so strong, he was so powerful. But besides the fact that it was entertaining and fun, I was keenly aware, even at that young age, that there was a message underneath all of it. And I heard that, and that meant a lot. You know, in the same way that Star Wars is really a movie about spirituality, if you dissect it, Godzilla had this like oddly subversive message to it. So that resonated, and the fact that it was made by other Asian people just meant a lot. And so I wanted to continue that. My first attempt at making a film, I think I was around 10 years old, was I took my family's Betamax camcorder, yes, I'm that old, and set it up, and I took my pet tortoise, which a box tortoise named Tony, and let her rampage through my Star Wars figures. And that was my first instinct, was to make a Godzilla movie. And then I tried to do it again in college, and I made a 2-minute Godzilla film. And so it's just always been in the back of my head that I wanted to do that. And I even remember when I was in college, they were shooting Roland Emmerich's movie in New York. And I was like a little bit jealous, and a little bit angry that I wasn't going to be able to do it. But here we are. So. And as far as whether this film is setting up a larger universe, duh. You know, I mean, we don't drop Kong's name for nothing. But I mean, honestly, Toho has been doing this since the 50s and 60s. You know, God bless Marvel for what they've done in sort of reviving and modernizing the concept of cinematic universes. They deserve all the accolades in the world for it. But you know, the first attempts at it were the Monsterverse, the monster universe that Universal was quietly attempting to build back in the 30s and 40s. But then Toho really took the ball and ran with it. And it's because they crossed over Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla that concept really grew. And so I feel like the legendary Monsterverse working with Toho is really bringing it back home.
Hi, Ian DeBora. I'm with IMDb. I love that you said that about Godzilla, because growing up, Asian kid, loved film. Seven Samurai and Godzilla were highly impactful, like in my life. So I appreciate
Bruce Lee too.
Yeah, Bruce Lee. I mean, it was so cool seeing all that. But my question was, I'm a pretty big Godzilla fan, and I did a quick search of Atlantis Godzilla. Did you pull from Godzilla, the Colossus of Atlantis, an episode from 1978, or was that sort of a natural inspiration?
It wasn't a direct pull or inspiration, no. I've always loved Jules Verne style adventures. I feel like movies don't have enough of that anymore. And I personally love theories about lost civilizations. And growing up, I'll never forget the disappointment I felt when I found out that mankind and dinosaur did not live together. You know, that decades of like Ray Harryhausen movies lied to me. And this seemed like a natural fit. I mean, personally, I love the concept that there was a previous civilization that figured out how to live with the kaiju, that cracked that code and figured out how to form a symbiotic relationship for their own survival. And that some cataclysm broke that relationship. And so while human beings sort of went off and forgot about their connection to the monsters and chalked up the monsters to fairy tales and legends, Godzilla never forgot. You know, which is why he has some weird distant memory of these tiny little squeaky creatures, and maybe there is some sort of affection there, which is why Serizawa says, like, we would be his pets, because maybe that's how he views us.
Hi, I'm Michael Payton with Warner Channel Latin America. First, I think that maybe giant reptiles rampaging through Star Wars is an untapped production opportunity.
I agree with you.
Interesting.
Just so you know, I truly believe that if you add Godzilla to any movie, it becomes a better movie.
Absolutely.
Right? Think about it. Take any movie in the world, and 20 minutes in, Godzilla shows up. I guarantee you it's more entertaining.
My question is for Ken and also for Michael. Talk to me about the opportunities and maybe some of the difficulties about making this a strong individual movie that stands on its own, but also being part of the larger, incredible history of Godzilla, and also the Monsterverse that we're talking about that's currently underway.
As an actor, just doesn't need a big or small. just focus on the character and make it a character with a director and any other cast or something, and then not different. Yeah.
I mean, and as a filmmaker and a fan, it's challenging, but I'm challenging. It's my job. But at the same time, like, there are entries. I mean, we're now part of a generation which has been subjected to decades of these franchise films. I'm sure many of you are fans of Star Trek and Star Wars and Alien and all of that, or Nightmare on Elm Street, you name it. So there's a long history of franchise films, many of which have very strong chapters and weaker chapters. And as a fan of those kinds of films, I like to focus on the stronger chapters and, like, what is it that makes them great? Why do they stand out? And typically what I find are the ones that do stand out are the ones that sort of, that they stand out on their own. You can enjoy them whether you're a fan of that particular franchise or not. I'll never forget seeing Aliens for the first time, and my aunt, who had never seen the first movie, walked out and she was still blown away by it. Star Trek 2, very similar. So it's a tricky balancing act, similar to the previous questions, where you have to be able to provide enough entertainment for the traditional fan base that loves it, but also you have to be welcoming enough to new audience members that they'll also understand it and enjoy it. And hopefully you're communicating the deep love that you have to that general audience.
I need to say one more thing, and then I have to fight to so many Godzilla fans, yeah, and it's so tough.
What do you mean fight?
No. I mean about so many knowledge and the history, and oh yeah.
Hi, Michael. I'm Daniel from Rocket Beans, Germany, and I have a question for you. And if you do, or if you could direct another Godzilla movie, which kaiju should be definitely in it? Which is the favorite one you couldn't direct yet now?
So like which monster from the Toho pantheon? Yes. There's one creature that I find fascinating because she's a plant. Her name's Biolante. And she's also one of the very few other female kaiju. But what she's interesting because she's almost like this Frankenstein creature. She's a combination of DNA from a scientist's dead daughter, Godzilla, and a rose. And it's like Audrey on steroids. But there's something just so interesting because I find that she's also very misunderstood. But she also gave Godzilla a run for his money.
I love you.
Okay, this will be our last question.
Hello, hi, my name is Brandon from Malaysia. Just two quick questions. Number one, Toro Studios has such a rich history with Godzilla and all the abundance of creatures and monsters. And for Michael, for you to come in, were there any creative differences in when you guys were planning the story? And were there, disagreements? And how do you guys overcome these creative differences with Toho Studios? And for Ken, I asked this question to Michael earlier. What do you think is Godzilla's favorite sashimi?
Maybe tuna.
Tuna? Personally, I don't think Godzilla eats fish. I think they made that mistake before. As far as creative conflicts or differences, there weren't really many at all. We were really in sync with each other. I mean, the most intimidating moment for me personally was coming here to Tokyo, and Toho had final approval on all the designs for the creatures. And so I had spent a few months coming up with the designs with my creature guys and presented it to them. And I love the Toho guys, right? But when you walk, it's a little intimidating because everyone's wearing a suit, and it's the long conference room table, and I'd showed them everything, and thankfully they signed off on it.
Im Anschluss und zum Ausklang ging es dann nochmal zum berühmten Godzilla-Hotel in Shinjuku. Schon beeindruckend, das Schuppenvieh mal in voller Größe zu sehen. Hier über den Dächern Tokios wollten wir dann noch ein paar abschließende Worte finden. Was dann aber nicht ganz so gut geklappt hat.
Nun denn, das war unser kleiner Trip, zu den Toro Studios. plus noch ein Q&A mit Ken Watanabe. Ja, meine lieben Freunde, das war jetzt unser zweiter Beitrag hier aus Japan zum großen Thema Godzilla. Wir waren heute wirklich im Paradies. Ja? Also vielleicht jetzt nicht Eddie unbedingt, aber Alvin und ich, wir hatten auf jeden Fall einen der schönsten Tage seit langem, denn wir haben die volle Dosis Godzilla, Glückseligkeit und Kindheitserinnerungen bekommen. Wir haben so viele coole Sachen erlebt, die werdet ihr alle wahrscheinlich jetzt schon gesehen haben und wir werden auch nochmal in der Sendung näher drauf eingehen, aber allein das Q&A oder eben diese ganzen Requisiten in Toho, das war einfach schon wirklich, wirklich geil. Mein Herz ist mittlerweile am Ende, weil es kann einfach nicht mehr Adrenalin irgendwie durch meinen Körper pumpen und ich kann auch nicht mehr grinsen, dementsprechend, ich bin echt am Ende und echt geschafft. Es war ein super toller Tag und machen wir einfach mal hier Tschüss sagen, Sayonara sagen, vielen, vielen Dank, Arigato, Warner, die uns das ermöglicht haben, hier zwei richtig schöne, wie soll man sagen, Events mitzuerleben. Und ja, ich hoffe, wir kommen bald mal wieder, aber ansonsten hoffe ich, dass ihr auch weiterhin uns treu bleibt und ein bisschen Kino Plus schaut und vielleicht euch ja auch von dem Godzilla-Fieber ein bisschen anstecken lasst. In diesem Sinne, tschüss, macht's gut, Sayonara, ich bin raus, am Ende, glücklich, wie noch nie.
For thousands of years, these creatures have remained in hiding around the world. And unless all the Titans are found, our planet will perish, and so will we. They are the only guarantee that life will carry on. Sorry, but this is the only way.
You're a monster. I'm sorry.
Long live the king.